Uber co-founder Travis Kalanick has been on a major selling spree since Uber's lockup expired on November 6th, selling his shares in the company, nearly $1.5 billion worth of it. This coming as CEO Dara Khosrowshahi buying nearly $7 million worth of Uber stock. It's not really even equal at all. Of course, the stock below the IPO
soaked
price.
Up a little
right
of the
now.
Selling, yeah.
You know,
a little bit.
Joining us to talk about all this, Bradley Tusk, founder and CEO at Tusk Ventures and a very early Uber investor. Craig Hatkoff is also here, the co-founder of the Disruptor Foundation, the annual Tribeca Disruptive Innovation Awards, as well as the Tribeca Film Festival. He teaches a class at Columbia Business School on disruptive innovation, and we want to talk to both of them. Good morning. So, yes, we just said it's an unequal situation.
Yeah. You don't see the two things as the same.
They're not.
Yeah.
They're not the same thing at all. But the question I have for you is, you have been very critical recently of Dara Khosrowshahi's management of this company.
I have.
And I think you were a longtime fan of Travis.
Yep.
And the question I have is what you'd want them to do now. And the reason I ask that is a lot of investors want them to show profits.
Right.
They're not even interested in the growth story. Yeah. Right? And so the sort of Pied Piper story, and this was true of Adam Newman and maybe Travis, and I don't know if you put them in the same category, but all of these kind of people, has the world changed?
Yeah.
And so I'm not sure what...
Well, there's two things.
What you're asking for is a little bit different than what I think the public investors asking for.
Yeah, perhaps so. Look, there's two almost competing trends, so it's, in fairness to Dara, it's complicated, right? On one hand, private valuations and public valuations are totally misaligned, and that's the fault of the private market.
Right.
You had venture funds who keep raising bigger and bigger funds, have to write bigger and bigger checks at bigger and bigger valuations, and it's not supportable.
Right.
But on the other hand, you know, from when Travis left till today, Uber's worth less than half of what it was when Dara came in.
Right, but the question I ask about that real quick on valuation is that a function of the person running the company, or is that a function of the fact that the pricing was so mispriced?
Yep. It's both.
3 years ago.
It's in part a function of the fact that if it's a company based on radical innovation and the market doesn't believe the CEO is capable of being a real innovator, they're not going to reward them by buying the shares. The market has clearly voted with their feet on Uber. So, yeah, you can blame some of it on valuation and Adam Newman and SoftBank.
They did to Lyft, too, so it doesn't matter about the leader.
Juno, I just got my discontinuation notice.
Right, Juno is in this business, and that's why I mentioned Adam Newman.
Yeah, but
I'm not sure people care about the leader anymore. I think they're looking at the numbers and going, the numbers make no sense.
Sure, well, those are good excuses, but at the end of the day, either you believe this person can really transform transportation or you don't. The market does not believe he can.
What do you think of this?
Well, I think there's two issues. One is valuation. The other is going to be sort of what's the business model that gets you to profitability.
Right.
And I do think, you know, particularly in the WeWork case, was this a real estate company or was this a technology company?
Right.
And the valuations are incredibly different. And so as long as the dream is that it's a technology company, you'll get a technology valuation. When the reality starts
but don't you think there's been some kind of massive misalignment with private valuations and public valuations?
Completely.
I mean, I think it's impossible to look at it any other way.
Let's just put it out there. The bonds, I mean, the last time I got a price on the bonds, it was 71. Right. And if you run that through, there's a pretty big disconnect between the debt market and the equity market.
Somebody said to me the other day, you know, an activist investor should really show up on the scene on Uber. It's actually one of the only unicorns out there, by the way, that has a single share, single vote system. So, and I said, an activist going to Uber. What could an activist do? Is an activist going to go in there and say, run the business for cash? In which case, I think the stock actually goes even lower.
Right.
Or an activist walks in and says, no. We want you to grow like a weed, and we don't care about profits. In which case, I'm not sure the stock would go up either.
Well, I don't know if you saw the Bill Ackman comments on WeWork.
Right.
I can't address. You know, he thinks could go to zero.
Right.
And so, what is an activist? I think the real question is, can SoftBank turn themselves into a version of an activist? You know, they've made
inside all of these companies.
Inside of all these companies, you know, there are issues of governance, you know, dual classes, and so I think the real lender of last resort for this segment is going to be SoftBank.
Are you selling your shares?
Yes.
Like all of them? Like you don't want to have them anymore?
I'm not fully sold out yet, but at a much smaller number than Travis. My pattern's been similar.
And what would give you enthusiasm to not sell the rest?
Some belief So Uber's predicated, rightly or wrong, on the concept of being the Amazon of transportation. That whether you're getting a person or a truck or a burrito from point A to point B, they will own the entire experience, right? If you believe that, then it's easy to believe in where the company could be in 5 or 10 years. If you don't see them as capable of doing it, there's no real reason to own the stock. And I think in the case that you raised before about an activist investor, the only way in this particular case is they'd have to be able to demonstrate that vision again, because otherwise, why would anyone choose to invest?
But that vision, to get to that vision, you'd have to run losses, I imagine, in the short term for a very long time. And I'm not sure that this public market is ready to do that right now.
No, it probably isn't. But I think one of the it's hard to know that for sure when there's both really big losses every quarter and no vision.
So most of the early investors in Uber that you're friends with,
out.
They're out.
Yeah.
Even at this price. I was actually, by the way, thinking of Lance Armstrong the other day, because remember, so much of his, I think the value of his family at this point, he said it on our air about a year ago, was wrapped up in Uber, except, by the way, I think back then he was thinking that Uber was worth $120 billion.
Yeah.
And so I was, I know there's a lot of viewers who aren't that sympathetic to Lance Armstrong's plight.
I wonder where you're going with this.
He's very happy you're saying this right now. Yeah.
Excuse me?
I'm sure he's happy that you're sympathetic towards him.
I may be the last one.
It's an interesting some speak last year.
Someone
one person.
But your sense is that the early investors, even at this price, do you know of any early investors who are saying to themselves, you know what, it's dropped too much, I'm going to give these guys a year or two.
But the key is also early investors are in the black, right?
Right.
So
you are in the black in a big way.
I came in at the Series A.
Right.
So for me, whether it's $27 a share an hour or $47 shares, it doesn't really matter. But I think most early investors back there, that's the point. But has anyone emailed or called me and said, you're crazy, you should be out there talking about buying Uber, not selling? No, not a single person.